Hi, I'm the Tabletop Teacher, and in this video, we'll explore a standard attack power that happens to be one of my personal favorites, Energy Explosion. After covering the basics, we'll look at how to maximize its effects before looking at a couple of useful strategies when playing against characters using that power. Energy Explosion is identified by an orange background on the attack slot of the dial. Here's the gist of it. When you deal damage to an opposing character with a ranged combat action, all adjacent characters are dealt splash damage from the exploding arrow, boomerang, fireball, or whatever. Here's the nitty-gritty. Before you declare a ranged combat action with a character that can use Energy Explosion, you must choose whether or not there will be an Energy Explosion per se. Think of it as arming the exploding boomerang or not. Technically, the wording says Energy Explosion activates when the character is given a ranged combat action, but it's the may include part regarding the area of effect that requires a choice to be made. This is what determines whether or not there will be splash damage, if you will. And this choice has to be made before the attack roll, when you declare your attack. Now, why wouldn't you want there to be a big ol' energy explosion? Well, if your target opponent is surrounded by your teammates, you might want to reconsider having things explode in their general direction. Splash damage is not selective. It hits all adjacent characters, friend and foe alike. Okay, so let's say Boomerang here decides to throw an Exploderang, his energy explosion power, at Spider-Man. His attack roll is successful, hits Spider-Man and deals him 3 damage. But this was an Exploderang, so all adjacent untargeted characters might also get some splash damage from the attack. Check their defense value against the same attack roll, and if it's a hit, they will be dealt damage as well. How much damage? This much damage. 2 lightning bolts equals 2 damage. The untargeted adjacent characters that get hit by the explosion get 1 damage for each printed lightning bolt on the attacker's base. So yes indeed, the more lightning bolts, the better. But wait, it gets even better. Batman has 2 lightning bolts on his base, which means he can shoot his exploding batarangs at 2 different targets. The Joker, Harley Quinn, Two-Face, Deadshot, and Ra's al Ghul are all huddling so they can use their Batman enemy team ability. That's just perfect for Batman's exploding batarangs. Two-Face and Ra's al Ghul have energy shield deflection. That makes them harder to hit, maybe not the best targets. So Batman decides to go for Harley Quinn and Deadshot, who are actually perfectly positioned for maximum damage to the group. Let's say Batman hits both of them. First, Batman decides how he's going to split the damage of his attack. Since Deadshot has toughness, might as well split the damage this way, so both take 1 click of damage. Now we check Batman's attack roll against all other adjacent characters' defense values. The Joker is hit for 2 damage. Shape change is of no help to him out here because he wasn't a target. Two-Face has energy shield deflection, which works here because even though the splash damage happens from an adjacent square, the energy explosion is from a ranged combat attack. But even with the +2 bonus to his defense, he does get hit and is dealt 2 damage. Ra's al Ghul is not hit by the explosion because his defense value with the +2 bonus from energy shield deflection is higher than Batman's attack roll. Still, Batman just dealt 7 points of damage with a single attack. Now imagine what happens when a character like Warwheel with 3 printed lightning bolts on the base uses energy explosion. That's crazy damage. Important note here, if a character would get splash damage from more than 1 target, the damage is not compounded. No matter the number of adjacent targets hit, the splash damage is never more than the number of printed lightning bolts. And it's always printed lightning bolts, by the way. You can't perplex the number of lightning bolts. If a special power gives a character more targets, that has no effect on splash damage. When you think you're going to fight characters with team abilities that require adjacency to work, you definitely want a character with energy explosion on your team. Since they'll want to stay close to one another to take advantage of their team abilities, they'll be in perfect position for your attacks. If they choose to disperse in order to counter your energy explosion, you'll have thrown a serious wrench in your opponent's strategy, so that's good for you either way. The one team ability you do not want to see in your opponent's team if you've planned for heavy use of energy explosion is mystics. Each mystic character that would take damage from the energy explosion would deal your character one unavoidable damage right back. That can add up real quick. Since energy explosion is activated when the character is given a ranged combat action, it can be combined with running shot, which is always a nice combo for ranged combat. Energy explosion cannot be combined with hypersonic speed or ranged combat expert because those powers require a power action to be given. Through special powers or traits, there are some characters that can use energy explosion along with another attack power. Iron Man 2020 here from the Age of Ultron set combines it with penetrating psychic blast. That combo makes all the damage from energy explosion, both to the target and the splash damage to the untargeted characters, penetrating. Yikes. Firestorm and Deathstorm have another great combo. They have a precision strike and energy explosion combo, so the attack can't be evaded with super senses, and the damage can't be reduced below 1 or transferred. Again, this applies to targeted and untargeted characters. Your best defense against energy explosion is perhaps to make sure your characters are dispersed. If you were counting on a lot of carrying and team abilities that require adjacency, energy explosion will be a problem for you. Mind you, since most characters that can use energy explosion have 1 or 2 printed lightning bolts, invulnerability or impervious will absorb the damage. If your characters have shape change, energy shield deflection, or super senses, your opponent might have a lot of trouble making good use of energy explosion. If your opponent can't target a character with shape change, and the others have high defense values thanks to energy shield deflection, or can still avoid the attack or splash damage thanks to super senses, energy explosion becomes not much more than a basic attack. Do you have a favorite character that can use energy explosion? Share your strategies using energy explosion in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Tabletop Teacher, and as always, thanks for playing with me.